Hello everyone. Before I go on to the solutions for the remainder of assignment number 3, I want to show you the power of what you've actually created to date. Now, we created this file, right? I showed you in the previous video. We created, where's the file? Right here. We created, with the byproduct of the solutions file is this A3 reports, which I'll run again and show you how that is created in this particular directory. But we created this file right here, LIS3781 _A3 _ oops, my apologies. This one, well, where is it? There it is right there. LIS3781 _A3 _ solutions.sql. That's the file we created, which is right here. Now, we went over the tables. I'm not going to go over that again. You can review the previous video, and I'm not even showing all of the code right here, but the inserts, etc. I even showed you the T command, which I'll go into in more depth over here in a few minutes. I showed you how to turn off foreign key checking, turn it back on after you do your create and populate statements, and then you want to do essentially what you want to do is a select all on each table. And I didn't do that, I commented out, but you really should do that to make sure you have data. Now, I also will show you shortly this T command. But before I do that, I want to show you how to do. We've always done a forward engineer on data. We've not done, I may have demonstrated in class, but you could also do a backward engineer of an existing database. And you could also do it with a file as well too. And that's what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Import, and then I'm going to go to Reverse Engineer MySQL Create Script. So File, Import, Reverse Engineer MySQL Create Script, and then I'm going to browse and go to the file. This is the path to the file that I just created. LIS3781 _A3 _ solutions.sql. The file encoding is UTF-8, and all I want to make sure is you place the imported objects on a diagram. Okay, now I do want to say this. You're going to see a couple of errors here, and that's because not only am I pulling the create and populate statements, but I'm pulling in all of the other statements for the exercises, for exercises 9 through 20, as you'll see shortly. Okay, that's why you'll see a couple errors here, but we'll disregard those errors, and all we're worried about is the create and populate statements. Now, mind you, it's not going to populate your tables, but it will create your tables. So, find the file, execute it, and you see it pulled in the create statements here. And I do have errors. Well, we can disregard these errors for now. Not worried about that. You also see that it pulled in do next and finish. Now, not only did it pull in those files, but it pulled in some views that we're going to create as well too. But we're going to just drop those views right now. I'm going to delete these objects. And notice that it pulled in this created this ERD based upon the script that we created. And you could do it, leave it like this if you want, show it like that, or if you want, you could even make it so that one of them is even, like this. It's up to you, however you want to do it, like that, so that it's a line between sales rep, customer, and vehicle, like this. Either way is okay. But there's your ERD right there. You can see the relationship, dual relationship between dealership and vehicle and dealership and sales rep, that a customer doesn't necessarily have to own a vehicle here. You see that optional participation here, and that is all dependent upon the business rules. But we didn't give you any business rules in this particular exercise. All we did was give you SQL statements. Anyway, gang, I just wanted to show you how to do that. Again, all you have to do is go to File. After you create your statements, File, import, and reverse engineer, and just go through the steps in the video here. Okay? I'm going to close out of this. Close out of this diagram right here. I already have another diagram, and I'm going to let's see. I'm going to close out of this. I don't want that diagram anymore, and I will save that. All right. Let's go to here's your A3 requirements. Now, there's some requirements above this, and that is the creating the tables for the remaining exercises, and you'll see that when you open up this requirements document. But we're going to focus on exercises 9 through 20. The first thing is, and don't forget, you're going to format your dollar amounts, format it to 2 decimal places, including a $sign. All phone numbers and zip codes should include proper hyphens. Now, first thing is, show all foreign keys. And I'm probably not going to go back and forth to this because I also have the requirements in the SQL statement here, or I should say in the SQL script, like this, right? It basically replicates what's in your requirements document. But I may go back and forth here because it's easier to see in the Word document. Okay, the T command. As I mentioned in a previous video, you could use the T command. Since I'm on a Windows machine, I can T like this. I'm going to T, oops, added an extra character. Use the T command like this. Just T, lowercase, and then space, and then path to where you want the file to go to. Here, I want it to go to my D drive. My D drive right here, to the courses, LIS3781 subdirectory, and I want it to be in a file called LIS3781 _A3 reports. I'm going to delete that for now, okay? Because every time I run this, it will recreate it. All right, so there's how to T for Windows. Now I replicated that same command. You could also do it like this. So you could use the / on Windows or the /. Mac users, you're going to do this. T space / user local MySQL. You're going to put it into the data directory because that's generally where it's going to go. Although I will say this. This may not work if you have amps installed. You're going to have to find out where the MySQL data directory is, just like we did in the previous video. Just copy that file, and it'll indicate where that directory is. So if you did something like this, if you look for the file and drag that file over, like say I have my solutions file right here, okay, and I'm in this directory. This works both on a PC and on a Mac. If I grab the solution file and just put it in here, it'll give me that path automatically. Okay, and the only other thing I have to do then for here, if I'm pulling the file in, I have to use the source command, right? And then automatically that file will be pulled in. So again, you want to make sure you have both Mac users and PC users. You want to make sure that you're going to output this T command to the proper directory. On the CCI server, it would be like this, except you would use your FSU ID and not mine. One other thing, you want to make sure that you have this solutions file on the CCI server as well too, but you don't have to. You don't have to do that. You can do everything locally. I'm just showing you how to do it remotely. Not remotely, but if you FTP'd your solution file to the CCI server, then when you log into MySQL, you can just run this command and it'll create the reports for you. Okay, first exercise is show all foreign keys for the database. I already showed you this. You could do a show create table, but I want you to do it like this, gang. I want you to do it like this. Okay? And I went over this in the previous video. You could just use this code. Make sure you test it out, and it will work, provided that you put in your FSU ID and not mine. Okay, make sure you got your FSU ID and not mine. All right, that's that. That's number 9. Number 10, display the query result set that modified the foreign key vehicle by updating the primary key in the parent table dealership. Well, it would be like this, gang. What you would do is display the query result set that modified the foreign key vehicle by updating the primary key in parent table. First, when you do an update, or anytime you modify the data, gang, what you're going to do is a select before and a select after. So if you look, let's go back. Since you saw that ERD there, just so that you could see. Oh, sorry, I created a couple of these things here, so I'm going to have to go back and make some modifications. Yeah, I forgot to save that. Oh well. I don't want to spend time pulling that file in again. But anyway, long story short is we're going to display the dealership and vehicle tables because dealership is related to vehicle. And we're going to modify the foreign key update the foreign key of dealership. We're going to set the dealer ID 6 where the dealer ID is 1. So we're going to, wherever it was 1, we're going to make that dealer ID 6. And that should update automatically. And by the way, remember why that will work? The reason why that will work is in our vehicle table. We have, for dealer ID, on delete restrict, but on update cascade. And that's the same thing we use for all our tables, on delete restrict, on update cascade. So what that'll do is, if there's an update to the primary key in the parent table, it will cascade to the child tables. Okay? Alright, that's number 10. So display but what you want to do is display the query result set. And if I scroll up here to where I invoked that, I invoked it right here. Alright? So here's the code. It's going to show my foreign keys. And this is what it's going to look like when I look at the reports, all my foreign keys. Here's the code that's going to show the modified primary key value in the dealership table. When I update dealership, I set the dealership ID to 6 where it was 1. Look what happens here again. The dealer ID is 1, and I'm showing that's the dealer table. Here's the vehicle table. Look where dealer ID is 1 right here. Now notice when I make a modification, dealer ID is no longer 1. There is no 1. It's now 6. In the vehicle table where it was 1 over here, it is now 6. Okay? That's because I had on update cascade. Okay? On delete restrict. Alright. Number 11. Display the query results set that prevented. So 10 was display the query results set that modified the foreign key vehicle by updating the primary key in the parent table, dealership. Display the result set that prevented. Here's our error that we're going to get. Oops. Here's the error we're going to get. Display the query results that prevented parent table sales rep from deleting a record without deleting the associated child table customer records first. So number 11, I'm trying to do this. Remember? It's going to generate an error here. Because I'm saying, by the way, I want to make sure you're seeing the data the way it should be. So let me go back to, I showed this in the first video, because I'm having this apostrophe like this in the middle of a string value. It's not showing the rest of my code correctly. So I did that, and now you can see the commands look differently. 9, 10, 11. Here's 11. Now this is going to generate an error. I'm going to delete from the sales rep table where SRP equals 1. Now, I do, you know what, I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to pull that up. I made a mistake here in my ERD, and it's going to say that I deleted the wrong file. So I have to pull it back in, and let's see what I got here. Yeah, I don't have anything here. So I deleted the wrong one, the wrong diagram. Let me pull this in, just so we can have something to talk about. Import, reverse engineer, execute. And there's my tables again. Not the way I wanted it, but that's okay. And I'm just going to delete these objects right here. We don't need them. Those are the views. Delete that. And I'm going to put this in here just to show it, make it easy to see. Vehicle goes here. Try to even everything out. Customer goes here, right underneath. And let me try to make this even. I'll always try to make it look nice. And by the way, that's a good idea too when you're dealing with customers and bosses too. Just because you did everything correctly, you always get brownie points if it looks nice, right? Notice the relationship here, gang. One-to-many relationship. A dealer can have, or I should say, must have at least one sales rep to be considered a dealership. And a sales rep in this particular design, we didn't do any business rules on here. I just created these so you could see what they would look like. The sales rep must have at least one customer to be considered a sales rep. And a dealership must have at least one vehicle to be considered a dealership. And a customer, well, we're saying here, a customer must have at least one vehicle. But a vehicle doesn't necessarily have to belong to a customer. In that regard, we could say that the reason why a vehicle doesn't necessarily belong to a customer is because it may not be sold yet, right? Maybe on the lot still. So a customer must have at least one, purchase at least one vehicle to be considered a customer, but not all. A vehicle may not actually be purchased by a customer because it may be in the dealership without being purchased yet. All right, but the point here is that when we go back to our code, delete from sales rep where sales rep ID equals 1, display the query results that prevented the parent table sales rep from deleting a record without deleting the associated child table customer. So look at this diagram here. Sales rep, one-to-many. We said on delete restrict. So a sales rep, if I delete a sales rep, I don't want to delete all my customers, right? So what happens? This happens. You see this error. Cannot delete or update parent row. Foreign key constraint fails on customer. The foreign key is on customer. Constraint, FK customer sales rep. Foreign key is sales rep ID. And it says on, and it gives you this. Let me scroll over so you can see it. On update cascade. And on delete restrict. There didn't allow for that. Where's that? Foreign key, sales rep, on update cascade. It's not showing the on delete restrict though. Other than here, it says on can't delete or update parent row. It's showing in the code here. I'm not sure because it's a number of characters, but it says on update cascade. I'm not sure why it's not showing the on delete restrict. But if we go back to customer here in our code, you'll see. Let's see, customer is the first one. you'll see in our create statement here, here's customer table. Foreign key is sales rep ID, on delete, restrict, on update, cascade. Okay? And that's why we got this error. And the reason we got this error is because we tried to execute this command on the parent table, sales rep. Okay? If you have any questions about that, please post them to the discussion board. Number 12. Here's our views. Create a view that only displays customer's first name, last name, and outstanding balance in descending order of balance. Name it V underscore cost underscore balance. Okay, so I'm not doing any formatting here because I want to make it. I take that back. I am doing formatting because it's relatively easy to do here. It's not a huge view that we're doing. So drop view, if it exists, create the view V underscore cost underscore balance as. Remember, gang, the most important thing is the select statement. Okay, is the select statement. So I only have 3 attributes: customer's first name, last name, and outstanding balance. And then I do a select all from V underscore balance. I could also put my order by the way, in SQL Server, that's what you have to do. You cannot put an order by. You can put an order by inside of the view itself, inside of the select statement of the view, but it's frowned upon. It's best to put the order by inside in the select statement of the view itself. So in SQL Server, you would do this. Let me just copy this entire. You would do this. Okay? And you could do it in MySQL as well, too. I have to put the order by inside of the select statement inside of MySQL. But you can in MySQL. You cannot. You can in SQL Server, but you have to do some other conditional formatting. I should say conditional options in the select statement to be able to do so. But here's the code right here. That should be fairly straightforward in 3781. Okay, because we've done this before. I actually didn't need any backticks here. You could put for the alias, you could put single quotation marks as long as they're balanced on either side, double quotation marks or backticks. I really didn't need either here because there's no space in between. If you don't have a space in your name, you don't need single quotation marks, double quotation marks, or backticks. I could have left it as is. Okay, and then just do a select on the view and drop the view if you're not going to use it. That's the answer for number 12. Number 13, create a view that displays the discount vehicle price by 5% for vehicles, for cars older than 2 model years. Name it V underscore vehicle or V underscore vehicle underscore discount. Number 13 is like this. So, again, forget about the view itself. Gang, notice we're doing here a select on the vehicle, just so you can see everything from the actual base table of vehicle. And then here, we want to make sure that we're actually, that we want to see the base table to see what the actual price is, to make sure that when we do the derived attribute, when we take off the 5%, that we're actually doing it correctly. That's why we do a select before and a select after with the view itself. Let's look at that where clause, because that's where all the magic's happening right here. Where vehicle underscore year is less than date underscore sub current date interview interval 2 years. Now, what you're doing here with this, don't know how this works. All you have to do is copy this, go to your favorite search engine like this, and find out what that date underscore, type in MySQL, date underscore sub, example. You do that, right? And you can go to W3C schools, or you can go to the documentation itself. I like to go to different sources to find out how different people use that. So if you go to date underscore sub, which is is. Where is that? Where's that? Dates. Right here. Date underscore sub. It says subtract a time value interval from a date. And that's what we're doing. So we're subtracting from the current date, cars that are older than 2 years, whatever the current date is, the interval of 2 years. We're going to subtract 2 years, and that's how we would do that. It says create a view that displays a discount vehicle price by 5% for cars older than 2 model years. And here is the answer, right here. Okay? Again, if you have any questions about that, please post them to this discussion board. And then select the view. Okay? You'll see that, okay, so this should be 12 right here. Okay, this is the answer for 12, formatted. 13 is showing the vehicle price right here. Select vehicle year and price, right here, just so you can see the value. And then we're formatting it, and we're saying here older than. Now you can see that all of these are older than 2 years. If we're taking the current date, right? All of these are, because it's 2017. So all of these cars are older than 2 years. We're going to give them a 5% discount, and you could just do the math and see if it is correct and format it to currency, $sign and 2 decimal places. Okay, but you'll see that this, in fact, is the answer. Date sub. It's a very cool function. Get used to using that. Okay, let's go to 14. Create a store procedure that displays the total dollar amount for both sold and unsold vehicles within a start and end date range of years passed by the end user. In other words, the user is going to pass an argument and display the values for each year. Name it. Store procedure. Be careful with this, gang. I've done this for a number of years, but you want to be careful with that because, for one, Microsoft SQL Server prefixes all its built-in, its intrinsic store procedures with SP underscore. So it's frowned upon to do that. Don't do what I just did. I named it SP underscore. You can, by accident, happen to name your store procedure by accident the same name as one of the built-in store procedures that comes with Microsoft SQL Server. So don't do that. You could do it for this exercise. It's not going to be a problem with MySQL, but it could be. It probably wouldn't be a problem with SQL Server either because of the unique name, but it could be. So don't name your store procedures SP underscore. Let's look at the code. Here it is. Okay, so create a store procedure that displays. Let's look at the select statement first. Okay. Now, what we're doing is we're getting the sold vehicle where CUS ID is not null, and where CUS ID is null. Now, here, notice we modified it so that the vehicle, if it's not purchased, the CUS ID can be null. However, in the customer table, a customer will have to have a sales rep, but may not have purchased a vehicle yet and still be considered a customer. Well, so a vehicle. Now, I want to prefix this here. A vehicle may not be associated with a customer ID because, again, it could be sitting in the dealership lot, right? So that's why this CUS ID can be null. Okay. Create a store procedure displays the total dollar amount for both sold and unsold vehicles within a range of years. Name it SP underscore total stock value year range. All right, let's see what we got. So that is sold and unsold vehicles on the total stock value. Okay, look what we're doing here. Remember, store procedure is just like any other function or method. before we didn't use any parameters. But now what we're doing is we're going to have a beginning date we're going to pass as an in and an in mode. By the way, that's the default in mode, which means that we're accepting an argument that's passed to this parameter year right here, and it doesn't modify the calling environment. Don't have to worry about that right now. Just realize that the in mode is the default, and in fact, if you didn't have it, it would still be the default in. So we got beginning date, end date, and what we're doing here is we're using that. Look what we're doing here, using a select statement based upon these parameters of beginning date and end date. So it looks like this. Select vehicle year, sum vehicle price as total sold vehicles from vehicle where cus ID is not null, that's a sold vehicle, and the years between, remember the between keyword, you got to start with the lowest value, then the highest value. Beginning is between the beginning date and end date, grouped by vehicle year. Now, gang, why we have to have a group by is because when we're using aggregate functions, or I should say aggregate attributes here, this is using an aggregate function, sum, with vehicle price, with non-aggregate attributes, we must use a group by. Okay? So this is going to give us the total vehicles sold. This is going to give us the total unsold because the customer ID is null. And then what do? We call that procedure by passing two values, the beginning date and the end date. Now remember, dates are really a string value. So even though it's a year, a numeric value, it's going to be passed as a date value of year, 2005 to 2010. Let's see how this works. Drop the procedure. Well, you can see I don't have to do that. I already have it here. So, select all from vehicle. I did that. Select all from vehicle right here, above. And then I'm going to create my procedure and then do two selects inside of the procedure. Total vehicles sold, right here. And total vehicles unsold with the years, 2005, 2010. So you can see that there are 3 vehicles sold and 2 that are not sold. That's why I did this select all on vehicle, just to make sure that the data was correct. So this is select all on vehicle right here. 3 are sold. 2 sold vehicles. I'm sorry. My apologies on that. My apologies. Here, this is showing all the vehicles that are sold. This is the sum of those vehicles sold for the total vehicles sold is 32,000. As you can see here, it's only 1. And here is a combination of 2, because I used a group by, for years 2005 and 2010. And if you calculate these, you could see that I could also do, without using a group by, I could do total unsold vehicles that would give me a total adding 53,000 and 21,000 together. But what I want to do a group by to find out what were the years for these vehicles. For the unsold vehicles, what were the years? Group by year. And for the sold vehicles, what were the years? And that's why it's giving me that data. But always do a select all on the data if you can to find out what exactly what you should be getting returned when you do an aggregate or a subtotal on the data. And the subtotal here is total sold vehicles. There's one subtotal. The other subtotal is total unsold vehicles. All right. Answer is this right here. Don't forget to change your delimiter and change your delimiter back. Remember, in MySQL, you have to do that. drop the procedure if it exists, change the delimiter, create the procedure, use the begin and end statements. That's for multiple statements, begin and end, and change the delimiter back to the semicolon. Now what you could do is compare the values here, and then call that store procedure. So here, I was comparing the values right here. Okay, just to make sure that they added up correctly. All right, 15. Display the statement to remove the store procedure. Well, that's an easy one. Just drop procedure if it exists. That's all. Okay, drop procedure if it exists. All right, put that back. Okay, 16. Let's do a trigger here. Create a trigger that updates sales reps' commissions by 3% for every sales rep, for those sales reps with 500,000 K or more in total sales. After an insert in the vehicle table, name it trig, TRG underscore sales rep commish, and show delimiters must include insert statement that fires the trigger and display before and after data of both the vehicle and the sales rep tables. Note, now I put this as a caveat here, gang. Note, in this database design, the trigger is strictly for illustration purposes, as there is no direct link to the sales reps in the vehicle table. So here, the relationship is between customer and vehicle, not sales rep and vehicle. There's not a direct link here. I mean, there's an indirect link from sales rep to customer, right? And we could calculate it like this, but we're not saying there's a direct link to the vehicle. It's an indirect link from sales rep customer to vehicle. All right, let's look at the answer. Now, here's our trigger. Okay. Now, remember, in MySQL we must use the for each row option. We cannot have row level, or I should say, these are row level triggers. We cannot have statement level triggers in MySQL. We can have row level triggers though. So here it is right here. Let's look at what the trigger's doing though first. Okay. Remember, this is the subject table. The subject table is after an insert on vehicle. After there's an insert on vehicle, we're going to update the sales rep table. We're going to update their commission by 3%, where sales rep's total sales is greater than or equal to $500,000. Okay? So anytime there's an insert on vehicle, we're going to update that sales rep commission by 3% if the sales rep total sales is greater than or equal to $500,000. So, drop the trigger. Notice I changed the delimiter here a bit differently. I just use a single pipe. And you can use different characters for using a delimiter. People have their preference. My preference is just using 2 forward slashes. You could use double @ symbols, double $signs, whatever your preference is. Double pipes. Here I'm using a single pipe. So I changed the delimiter to a single pipe. Create the trigger. Name it trig SRP underscore commish or com. After insert on vehicle, for each row, begin. Begin is, remember, begin and end is for multiple statements. I actually don't have multiple statements here, right? I only have one statement here, an update. But be sure to use begin and end, even if you're only using single statements. Because if I added anything to this, by the way, you cannot use select statements inside of a trigger. I could do modification statements, insert, update, delete inside of this, but I cannot use a select statement inside of a trigger. But if I added to this, I would have to use begin and end. So make sure you do that. End with a single pipe and then change that delimiter back. Okay, there's my trigger. Now what do? Well, I'll do a select before and a select after to see the data before and after the sales rep. And let's go over here. So, select before vehicle, select before sales rep over here. That's this data over here. Then I do my insert into vehicle. And then, because I have an insert in the vehicle, there should be a change in sales rep commission. I'm not going to do the calculation right now, but you should see some type of a change. It should actually be a 3% change for those where sales rep total is more than $500,000 after I did this insert. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is before. These two are before. Let's go to sales rep. Let's look at their total sales and see which one's more than 500,000. So this is more than 500,000. These three are more than 500,000. And so here, when I did my insert, let's see, 5 rows, 6 rows. Oh, yeah. So here, total sales are more than 500,000, right? Are these three. Notice their commissions are right here. Okay. Now, the same three, notice their commissions now. So 25, 32, 84. These three have now changed, and that should, if you do the math, you should see a 3% increase in their sales rep commission. Okay? And that's just from this trigger right here. Drop trigger, create trigger, and there you go, right there. Okay? 17 is another easy one. Display all triggers you created. Okay, just do this. Show triggers. Done. That's it. Okay? 18. Display the statement to remove the trigger. No, don't drop trigger if attempting. Extra credit below. Just display the statement that would remove the trigger. So in other words, don't do this because you're going to need it for the extra credit. So this is the statement right here. Drop trigger if exists. Trig underscore SRP underscore commission. Okay? By the way, here is method overriding versus method. Why did I put that in there? I have no idea why I put that in my here. So that's going to cause a problem unless I comment it out. I'm going to remove that. Okay, and here's the extra credit. This is why you watch these videos, right? So what is the extra credit? The extra credit is create a transaction that fires a trigger created above and display before and after values of sales reps commissions. So I'm going to do this quickly, gang. You created the trigger. Here is the transaction. Start the transaction. Now in a transaction, we can do a select. There's a select before, showing the formatting. Here's what's going to fire my trigger, the insert statement on vehicles. Here's a select after. And then, guess what? I can do a rollback to bring everything back, even though I invoked the trigger, to bring everything back to where it was before. Okay? So here's my test trigger. I do a select before, insert, select after, and then do a rollback. And you can check that out by looking at the data here. Okay? Here's my select before on vehicle and sales rep. Here's my select after on vehicle and sales rep. And also have my trigger that you'll see that the modification for everything over 500,000, these three no longer worked. The reason why they didn't change is because I rolled it back. Now if I did this, commit on that transaction, it would have worked. But that's one way just to do some testing. Okay? And here's how we tested the rollback as well too. Just by doing this. Want to drop it? You can drop the trigger right there and show triggers. Here's my show triggers. By the way, a trigger is a routine. So when I show triggers, it does this. It says, what's the routine type? It's a procedure. Oops, not bad. I have that. Yeah, there you go. Drop trigger, show triggers. Now after I drop the trigger, it should say empty set right here. Okay, empty set. the show triggers before is right here. Okay. When I drop the trigger and I show it, I'm displaying here an empty set. Oops, my bad. It's a little lower, right here. Lastly, extra credit. Research and include the SQL statement for how to view all store procedures only for this database. And what I'm saying is you cannot use show procedure status. I'm not allowing you to do that for the extra credit. So you have to do it like this. And here is the answer. Select routine type, routine name, from information underscore schema dot routines, where routine underscore schema equals your FSU ID, not mine, and the processing or outputting to another file called reports, and that by using the note T. But this select statement right here is going to show all the store procedures for the MJOET database, as you can see right here. And the only procedure we created, if you remember, was that SP underscore total underscore stop value underscore year range. And that was right up here. Okay? That's it right there. And then we called it using that. Alright, gang, that's it, including the extra credit. By the way, when you run this, you should get a file called reports. Like, oops, I refresh this, and it should be like, no, I didn't. Sorry about that. Let me run this right now, because I deleted it. So when I run this, when I run that file, I want you to see, here, let me do this. When I run that file, I want you to see that it's going to be right here. It's going to be the last file. So let me do that. There it is right there. Okay? Alright, gang, if you have any questions, please post them to the discussion board. See you all in class.